What would you say is the number one thing that you come up against? If someone says to you that you had no experience in property and you say, what's the biggest mistake that you, in your experience, that most investors, potential investors, people that are interested in the market, what do they do? And you go, oh, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
One of the things that comes to mind is don't try and do it alone. There is a lot of kind of courses out there that you can go to and stuff like that, but some of them aren't obviously the best, as you know. So I would say get a good mentor who's been there and done it. Walk the walk and talk the talk.
Now, see, when you say a mentor, like I see a lot of the stuff that's bandied about, like guru, expert, and so on. And how would people know what a mentor is? Because I think a lot of people maybe think they've got someone like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, out of the people that are out there, I don't think all of them are what people think that they are.
Yeah. Some people are luckier than others, I think. You know what it's like yourself. Well, I definitely know what it's like when you try to get started out. You're online and you're searching, you're seeing other people going to different things and stuff like that. So you're just following along and you're hoping for the best because you get sell the dream, don't you, a lot, which is a big thing. It's causing a lot of hassle nowadays.
What do you think lures people in? Like, what do you think that they hear and they go, yeah?
It's mental, isn't it? Because the word property, isn't it? It's everybody wants to get into property. I think it's easy. You see all these people making good money, jumping about in nice cars and stuff like that. So I think that's why people want to get involved in it. And then, as you know, and I know, it's not as easy as people make it out to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think when thinking back in my life, I remember, I'm sure everybody will have the point in time where they came across this idea that property might be something that you should put some attention towards, because it might be a great way to set up your life. Very first time that I came across it was, I was always really lucky to work with guys that were older than me. So again, I don't know if it was just circumstance or luck, but I was highly driven.
Yeah.
And it meant that if you were highly driven, I would end up in jobs that you needed to get 20 years experience in, and I was there in 6 months, 12 months. And what it meant is that my drive was matching guys that were 20 years further down the road than me. I just didn't have the experience. I didn't have the knowledge. But what I did is I had the determination, the work ethic, the drive, the willpower. So it would appeal to people who needed that kind of driven mentality, and they would take the chance with somebody that was younger, but it put me in a place where I was around guys that were 20 years further down the road than me. And what would happen is you would think the guys that were in their 30s and 40s, they would have their life sorted out. And naive as a 17, 18-year-old guy, you know what it's like when you're young, you're like, probably when you're 40, you've got it all figured out. You've got the car, you've got the house, you've got your family. You probably got yourself dialed in. That's what you think when you're that age. What happens is when you get thrown into the mix with a lot of guys that are that age, you realise that they're not all the same. Yeah. So there's some guys that are still scraping about, the type, they get the money on the Friday, they've got no money on the Monday because they've
they
blittered it over the weekend. Yeah. They've spent it all. And then you get other guys who, middle of the road, the type, they usually say things like, anything for an easy life. They're middle of the road, right? They've not quite went all out. They've not, on the other hand, they've not smashed all their money over the course of a weekend. But you had people that were really, there was a small number of them that were exceptionally dialed in.
Yeah.
So what you would see this thing where, when I was in, it was my first sort of sales job, you were speaking to customers and you would literally speak to the local JK alcoholic junkie all the way through to CEOs and the who's who of business people. So you, very, very quickly, and especially at that age, I was able to work out that there was differences between people. And because I didn't have the 20 years of, habits or misconceptions that was new, but I was experiencing all these different types of people. And when you see these people, you could tell who had money.
Yeah.
And the common theme, whether they were a business person or they were the best salesperson or they were a CEO or they were the who's who and whatever that they did, there was a common theme with them all. And because I was asking them particular details about setting up a contract for them, I would find out that a lot of them were involved in property.
Yeah.
And it was a common theme. That was the first time I heard it, and I thought, this sounds like Monopoly.
Yeah, definitely.
The people that are getting ahead, they have the houses. They, you know, the greenhouses, the red hotels. I'm like, there's something in this, because it was what's the common denominator with them all, and it was they either, you know, nearly all of them owned their own house, and they maybe owned the premises of their business. They maybe owned some properties that they let out.
Yeah.
There was always some sort of theme that involved property.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I came in. I reckon I was 17 when that became really clear to me.
Yeah.